Awesome. Well, welcome, Zoe.
Thank you all.
I'm super excited to have you on the podcast. I think it's been really interesting just having you be a part of my life and my yoga journey. And I've been learning so much from you. I take a yoga class at the University of Texas with you, and you've been kind of talking to me a little bit more about yoga, the different philosophies, the different ways it could help your body, help your life. And I've just seen you be a great embodiment of yoga itself. You've taught several students. I think at one point you said you had over 500 students.
Oh, per semester?
Yeah, I'm.
I have about 400 students per semester.
So that is quite a bit.
Yeah.
You're affecting the lives of 800 people per semester.
Per school year, yeah.
Yeah, per school year.
Uh-huh.
And that is, I think it's like very fascinating. Do you ever get a little bit stuck whenever like you're talking to these students, kind of just letting them know the basics of yoga? What are like some of the key philosophies and principles that you like to lay down as a part of your class?
I never get stuck. I always feel very passionate about teaching what I do.
Mhm.
It's my life's work. I call this my dream job.
Yeah.
So I never feel stuck. What I consider that I'm doing is teaching an ancient wisdom.
Hmm.
And so I'm not teaching from my own personal point of view so much as conveying something that was created thousands and thousands of years ago and is still relevant today.
Hmm.
And all we have to do is try it. And that's why I talk a lot in my classes about being scientists. And we're just doing an experiment. Like, let's try this thing that somebody said to do thousands of years ago, and let's see how it makes us feel. And all of a sudden, it works. It has these outcomes that they said it would have.
Yeah.
So I never feel like I'm stuck because it's not something of my own that I'm teaching. I'm teaching this methodology that's still relevant and still functional.
So what are some of the things what are the outcomes that are supposed to come out of yoga? What are you supposed to feel? Is it supposed to be more of a physical sensation, more of a mental sensation, more of a sensation that helps you out with life?
Yeah, all of them. Yoga is a holistic approach. So it is supposed to result, when you do it right, it's supposed to result in inner peace.
Yeah.
Or we could just say more inner peace than when you started, right? So incremental inner peace. But also physically, we're supposed to feel more at home in our body. So kind of eradicating dis-ease and feeling more ease in our body, more freedom. Sometimes they call it liberation, where we don't feel like our body is a hindrance. We feel like our body is a friendly home to live in. It feels good to be alive, would be like one of the side effects of yoga. So physically, mentally, and I would say like energetically or emotionally, yoga can have effects. Even like neurologically and hormonally, yoga can have effects towards increasing health.
Yeah,
Well-being.
I really like yoga because of the different aspects of it, but especially the physical aspect, because one of the things that it allows me to do is explore my body. So I feel my joints are hurting. I like doing MMA. I like lifting weights. I like running. And I like doing a bunch of things that sometimes leaves you with like a little bit of joint pain or joint discomfort. And whenever I'm doing yoga in your class, you teach different methods on the different ways to sit, the different ways to align your posture. And we talk about like inner and outer spiral and how hitting like a pose, but just slightly paying attention more to your hips and how they're on a level playing field can uh, deepen the stretch or even deepen the focus that you have on that specific movement.
Yeah. Well, that speaks a lot to my lineage. So there are many different styles of yoga. And if you go back, like whose teacher was taught by who, by who, that's what we call lineage. So the style of yoga that you're being exposed to from me is called Hatha yoga.
Hatha
And
yoga.
Hatha yoga is the slower paced style yoga where we are holding poses for longer amounts of time and focusing a lot on alignment.
Mhm.
And that's informed by my teachers. I was trained in the Anusara tradition, which is
Mhm.
where we get the inner and outer spirals from, our
Mhm.
5 principles of alignment. And that tradition stems from Iyengar, who's one of kind of the modern masters of yoga,
Mhm.
who brought yoga to the West. So, yeah, the benefits that you're noticing are from this particular style of yoga. Whereas other styles, we might have been focusing on like, how sweaty can you get? How fast can you
Yeah.
get? How hot can we make the room?
Yeah.
Right. And those aren't styles that I'm necessarily exposing you guys to in
So
our particular class.
can you spell that? What was that?
Anusara,
No, the one with the H, the ha
Hatha,
hatha.
Hatha,
Okay.
Hatha,
Hatha
Hatha
yoga.
yoga.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because I remember you talk about a bell curve, kind of it starting out slow, then you're warming up, and then you kind of hit the peak, and then you also hit like a little bit of
Yeah.
a slow. And we go through different flows, such as like vinyasa flows, where we go from down dog to plank
Right.
to even lifting some legs, and we have some more challenging poses at the top, such as like tree. We're testing our balance, and we're testing like our ability to move
Yeah.
smoothly. And I think recently we were even doing the splits and head and handstands, right?
Right.
And it was tricky because like a lot of people are still working on like the stabilizer muscles and still working on getting some of that strength. But you were giving progressions on the different ways to go about it.
Yeah.
So for someone that's just starting out, how would you suggest like they look towards progressing some of those like smaller muscles, like the someone who wants to get their first handstand?
Right.
How would they start working on it?
Well, I mean, if you're an ultimate beginner, and I think consistency is key. That's like the biggest recommendation
Mhm.
is to work on things consistently, not erratically, like jumping in, trying to get a handstand, then not doing any yoga, going to do your MMA and your whatever else
Yeah.
you're doing, and then trying to do another handstand. But like, if you're going to use yoga as a tool for your physical well being, then
Mhm.
being consistent about it would be key. And then the other thing is, I think finding a teacher whose voice resonates with you so
Mhm.
that that helps you be consistent, that you want to be there with the teacher. So even if it's an online video series you're going to practice with,
Mhm.
you want to find someone that you resonate with, that you like, that you look forward to doing the yoga with so
Mhm.
that you stay consistent. But as far as getting a handstand, I think the first step is like downward dog, right?
Mhm.
Because you're bearing your own body weight in your arms in downward dog.
Mhm.
So a beginner even gets tired doing downward dog.
Mhm.
They say their wrists hurt, they're done.
Yeah.
After a few breaths, they're like, whew, let's come down in child's pose. So just getting a good downward dog, I think is
What if they were mildly athletic? I found that one of the ways I've been building to a handstand is by doing crow pose
okay.
and just
So do you
working
do
on that.
crow and then you lift up into
Yes, I try
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so that's a fun transition.
Yeah.
That's definitely a more advanced though. I wouldn't call that a beginner's
Yeah.
transition, right? Yeah. But yeah, that's definitely a fun one. And that so the art of transitions is something I would call intermediate or advanced. So what you're playing with isn't just a handstand, it's how you get into it and then how you
Mm.
get out. Right? So can once you do crow and handstand, then can you get back into crow?
Mhm.
You can? I
Um,
think that's the trickiest part.
actually, I haven't thought about that. No,
So try that. Once you're in the handstand, try to get back into crow and stick it because you're going to drop your knees and you're going to fall down onto your
yeah.
feet. Your butt's heavy. You'll fall down on your feet, but you want to stick that crow. And that's like so much core and breath control.
Mhm.
So transition definitely becomes like the art.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting because I've been getting like to the point where I've been able to hold because I've been like progressing in crow and I've been able to hold it for I've been able to hold it for like roughly 30 seconds now.
Great. That's
So
enough. You don't have to hold it any longer than that.
yeah,
Really.
yeah, so like recently I've been asking you about like different ways to transition or upgrade, and you were talking about like maybe shifting to one side
Uh-huh.
and like maybe one day you test out your right side and then
Uh-huh.
your left side
Side crow.
side crows,
Mhm.
and then I've been taking a look at the book that you recommended that
Light
has
on Yoga.
Light on Yoga.
That's written by BKS Iyengar. So he's that founding father that I was describing about who brought yoga to the West.
Yeah. And he has some pretty funky looking moves.
Right?
They're really interesting. He's like having really good control. He has like if I ever saw him on the street, I probably wouldn't think that he is like the yoga master. Yeah, that he is. Because like his like I was just looking at it and like his body is like so nimble and flexible and I don't envy it, but I want something similar to it. It's really cool and really nice the way he's able to really control a lot of like movements within his body. And I have started getting used to like a little bit more of the discomfort. Like for example, if I put my leg up here, I start feeling tightness in my hip. But you put us in a similar position, which is I forgot what this one is called. The one where you
double pigeon.
Yeah, double pigeon. And that always like targets like my hips. And you even had to sit on a block to kind of make it a little bit easier for us. So there's like different aspects of yoga that I haven't really, or that I've been learning from you on, with like different tools such as like the blocks or the straps. And these different tactics have started to help progress me because like sometimes I want to be able to get into the pose, but I have to baby myself at times. And sometimes I'm like, you're not there yet. Yeah. But I am there in other poses. So I get to use the block and straps to strengthen a pose that is a little bit too easy for me.
So the blocks and straps also come from that same lineage from Iyengar. He's like the block and strap dude. So there are many other lineages in yoga where you don't use any props and it's completely based on your physical ability. And so if you try a pose and you can't do it, the teacher might say, that's as far as you go today. You know, come back and try again tomorrow. So it's a different approach when we have these blocks and straps and we can modify the poses and go, oh, you're a little tight, but let's see if this helps. Maybe you can still accomplish the pose with a little bit of help from these blocks and straps, right? It's kind of cool. To me, it like forms the foundation for accessibility in our yoga practice.
Yeah, I've noticed that the different aspects of the different aspects of the block and strap, I never really paid attention to it. I was like, oh, I could do yoga anywhere. And more recently, I've been thinking about buying some blocks.
Nice.
Because there's like been some poses that there was like a session where it was like the restful yoga. I forgot what. Restorative yoga. And you kind of put us in like certain positions where you just sit there for a solid like 1 to 3 minutes. And it's crazy because like with my frantic head, I constantly want to be moving about, trying to do the next thing. I do physical therapy and I work out a lot. So I'm very jittery and I try to get certain like moves, but you were like, well, the thing about this move is that it kind of helps like loosen the muscles and you kind of have to sit in it. So it's like sitting with the discomfort, similar to like a stretch, but I would say like it's more in the joints as opposed to like if you're stretching your legs, you'd feel it in your hamstring muscle. There was one where you made us put a block on our mid back and one on our neck, and you just lay
supported fish pose.
And this allowed me to pay a little bit more attention to my shoulder pain and like my shoulder joints, and it started feeling a little bit more loose after.
Nice.
And I've done physical therapy and I've done a lot of like mobility movements that kind of help with that. But I remember that was like one of them that I'm like, oh, I feel some like a major amount of relief from this.
Now, it's interesting that you're talking about this in particular because you said that you appreciate the physical benefits of yoga. And yet I would argue that a stillness practice is also a mental part of yoga. That, yes, it's benefiting your physical body, but the mental and physical are interrelated.
Mm-hmm.
They communicate with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so perhaps part of the benefits that you were feeling came from your act of stillness, that somehow you had to mentally prepare yourself like, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
We're not doing anything. There is no next thing. I'm just going to have to settle into this one thing and do it.
Yeah. And one of the things I feel that yoga kind of helps me on is I was about to search it up, but it was I think it's 7 types of intelligences. And one of them is kinesthetic intelligence. So it's like being aware of your body, being able to know how to move it. And I feel certain sports are really good at this. Like wrestlers, they play a lot on balance and balance of other people. Same thing with like jujitsu. I consider it aggressive yoga, one might say. And then yoga as well, because it allows me to kind of realize like what are like the parts that are feeling really tight, and it just has like more awareness and more. It gives me more knowledge on what I'm able to do and what I'm able to challenge myself on, because a lot of the moves are challenging and difficult, and I see like some guys that are lifting a bunch of heavy weights but can't even do like a simple pistol squats or things of the sort, or even balance on one foot. And recently I've been paying a little bit more attention to like my foot arches, like the way my knees are positioned. Is it going outward? Is it caving inward?
Mm-hmm.
And what are like the different ways I walk? And it's all been because I want to pay more attention to this stuff, because I want to be a little bit more aligned. And that is one of the principles of yoga. It's alignment.
Right.
So you were talking about the 5 principles of alignment.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
I love the 5 principles of alignment. I love Anusara yoga. We said we weren't going to talk about anything controversial, but Anusara yoga is a bit of a controversy in its roots. Its founder had a bit of a misstep at a certain point in time. And so I was affiliated with that style of yoga. And since then, I've become unaffiliated with it. And yet, some of the core teachings from that lineage are still things that I find valuable and applicable and still relevant and solid gold. So the 5 principles of alignment is definitely one of those teachings that I appreciate. And the first principle of alignment before you do anything else is opening to grace. So if we circle back to your friend who wants to do a handstand and he's never done one, that would be the recommendation. Like, we want to muscle through this, and that's step 2 is muscular energy. Step 2. But it's like, don't forget step 1, right? And so many of us want to just like throw our muscles at a pose and go, can I do it? And that's really just turning it into a feat of strength, right? But if we want to call it yoga, yoga is not equivalent to just feats of strength, right? We said yoga is aimed at inner peace. So the first step is opening to grace.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like being aware of yourself and being okay with like being a beginner. Would you say that's like a good summary of what opening to grace is, or being open to like your body's current capabilities?
Yeah. I mean, even more than that, I would say opening to grace is opening yourself to something larger than yourself. Sometimes people call that a higher power. It could be anything, though, like your breath or the universe or the thing that breathes you into life. That when we approach poses from that smaller sense of self, like, what muscles do I have to use to do a handstand? What muscles aren't open enough to do the splits? We're belittling ourselves to just a hamstring or a shoulder muscle, a deltoid or an abdominal, whereas we are so much more than that. And so this suggestion to open to grace is this reminder that there are things beyond you, beyond your control. And in that case, your limitations, right? Maybe you're ready for this or maybe you're not. So you open yourself to grace, meaning you open yourself to like the flow of things, the flow of life, a universal consciousness.
Yeah. So in a really quick bullet point list, what is the 5 principles of alignment? We have
Open to grace, muscular energy. Then there's the inner and outer spirals that you described. And the last one is organic extension. So that's like extending outwardsly. Muscular energy is our contraction, and then the organic extension is to extend outwards. If you combine, you're supposed to combine all 5 of those all the time in every single pose you do. Always.
Yeah, I remember there was a time where we were about to lay down and have our shavasana, and one of your students was helping lead the class, and she essentially put us in a position where she made us squeeze everything as tight as possible: calves, quads, glutes, core,
big contraction,
face even, and then just release, and then just sit in like that release. And that was one of the things that I felt was probably it gave me a lot of permission to just like release, because I feel jittery even whenever I'm like in these shavasana like states and I'm trying to help meditate, or I'm trying to just like be still and focus on being still. It's like I'll move and I'll be like, my brain will be like, Gabe, you have to be still, stop moving so much. And it was kind of like a fun practice, and I encourage anyone listening to this to kind of try it out. It's like where you flex everything as hard as possible for, I'd say, anywhere from 10 to 15 seconds, and then you release, and you kind of just release and stay in stillness for another. What do you recommend for stillness, actually?
Shavasana should be 5 minutes at least.
I've been paying attention to like these different points of, or these different philosophies of yoga. But one of the things that I felt conflicted with, and one of the things that I've heard other people be conflicted with at times, is just having some of the religious aspects. I've gone to like retreats where like some guy was like, "Don't do yoga," and I was like, I don't know, man. You're being like a little too skeptical and like too much of a conspiracy theorist. But sometimes I could fall into like that little ladder and spiral down. So, how would you recommend you go about it? I'm Christian, and I want to be able to practice yoga without that sense of guilt. Do you have any words that you'd recommend to someone like me, or someone just getting started within that journey?
I think it comes back to that advice I said, where you have to find a teacher that has a voice you're comfortable with and that's compatible with you. So a moment ago, I was talking about opening to grace. That's your chance to dive in. I'm a teacher that is teaching from kind of a blank slate or an open book. So I'm allowing people to interpret grace as they want, right? So that's your opportunity right there. You could say, what I mean is open to Jesus. Like that's what it's talking about. Or open to Buddha if you're Buddhist. Or open to Muhammad if you're Islamic, right? The way I'm teaching it is grace gets to be this blank slate for a higher power or something spiritual or not. And so in my classes, Muslims can practice next to Christians, can practice next to practicing Jews, can practice next to atheists or people that are undecided or spiritual, right? And we can all interpret it in our own way on our own mat. But there are other teachers who are going to be teaching with a more strong personal faith line. And I think that's where it could get complicated. If I talked all the time about Jesus and then I alienated people that aren't into that, Or if I talked a lot about Buddha and then I alienated people that aren't into that, right? So in my teaching, I keep the particular names of the divine out of it. Because in my opinion, I want to create a yoga experience that's open to anyone of faith or not of faith. But there are certainly opportunities to make your practice about your faith. If you want to bring Jesus with you onto your yoga mat, you certainly can. In this modern day and age, we have to be okay with people in their own space holding whatever they want to be sacred.
Yeah. I was like never really much a believer. Like I grew up Catholic growing up, and I grew up and like in college I had a mentor who kind of guided me, because I would say I was like in like with this weird atheist and agnostic space. But one of the things I always encourage is to have a conversation. Like one of my mentors, he talked about like how there was this guy and he was a Wiccans, which is like from my understanding, it's a denomination of Satanism. And he was
Wiccan.
well, yeah, Wiccan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a modern witchery, right?
Yeah. Something.
Natural witches.
Yeah, something of the sort. And I always like got a little bit distraught, because I always felt like, are you one side or the other? And I think sometimes like it's difficult to get our ideas challenged, but I feel like that can either deter you or bring you closer to the faith. And it's really more so on how you view it. So whenever I've like bumped into like people who have like different religions, I always like try to have like a open dialogue and try to skew differently. I really love this podcaster named George Janko, where he essentially talks about Christianity, and he has like this really cool concept that I like, and it's whenever he's having debates and discussions like with Muslims, he's like, okay, I've given you like my viewpoints and you've given me your viewpoints, and we're still at a disagreement, but what I want you to do is I want you to pray to your God that I come to see your way, and I'll pray to my God. And then at the end of the day, it's not us as humans. We're just a vessel at the end of the day. You can then start talking to your God, and now it's on your God. So like if you were to put it like so black and white, it would be like the true God would then like speak into you in that scenario. But
well, so in yoga, there's the yamas and niyamas. These are the first teachings. We were talking about the principles of alignment. That just has to do with your body practice. But the 8 limbs of yoga are the overarching teachings of yoga. And the very first teaching in the 8 limbs of yoga are the yamas. And these are qualities that we're all supposed to embody as yogis. And these 5 qualities are: kindness is the first one. Kindness, honesty, generosity, non-attachment, and a striving to be our best selves. So if you take those 5 qualities and you fully embody them, I feel like at that point, at the end of the day, it wouldn't matter what denomination or faith you are. If we all walked the earth being kind, honest, generous, not attached, and a striving to be our best self, done, right?
Yeah.
That guy who you were talking about, the Muslim and the Christian who were just having that conversation, right? It's like if they were following all of those things, no problem.
Yeah,
there isn't a problem.
Respect within each other and mutual dialogue. And I've kind of like noticed. I remember there was like one thing that you mentioned. I was like, it kind of threw me off, because I never would have thought that this would have been like in a yoga class. But I remember, you said that the direct translation was something in accordance to like abstinence.
That's the being our best self, celibacy.
Yeah, or yes, celibacy.
So the term is brahmacharya. Brahma is the name for a god. It's the name of the divine. So brahmacharya is like living in the house of the divine. But what does that mean? I mean, when you think of like a monk going to live in the house of God, he goes celibate, doesn't he?
Mhm.
That's what monks do, right? So, like, that's one interpretation of it, is that yogis, when they go to live in their house of the divine, must be celibate in order to practice yoga to its fullest.
Mhm.
What I explore in our modern classes is how we can honor our understanding of the divine, or I even just call it our highest, being our
Mhm.
highest self, how we can align ourselves with our highest self and what that looks like. And for some of us, that may look like abstinence. For
Mhm.
some of us, it may just look like a strong and thorough examination of the consent we're giving and what we're consenting to. Sometimes we've been saying yes to things that are really a no for us at a deep fundamental level.
Mhm.
And we need to clarify that within our own hearts and selves so that we can align ourselves with our highest,
Mhm.
our own highest, whatever that is. And so it's not up to someone else to determine what your highest is, but just for you. But
Mhm.
yeah, I guess, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's always really interesting to see like the different philosophies of like yoga and the different correlations that there are like between like other aspects of my life and other aspects I've seen. Um, so I know one of the things that you constantly talk about is light on yoga. What other books do you typically recommend for anyone wanting to check out yoga or just like become more accustomed with it?
My two favorite books that we use in my courses at the University of Texas at Austin are The Light on Yoga by BKS Iyengar
Mhm.
and the Yoga Sutras. In
Mhm.
particular, I like the Yoga Sutras that is translated by a particular translator named Sri Brahmananda Saraswati.
Whoa, can you spell that?
I can, but why would you make me? I can write it out for you afterwards.
Okay. Okay, well tell us like the first
um,
like 5 letters. That way they can at least search it up on Google.
Shri is SRI,
Okay.
Brahmananda, Bramananda. Brahmananda. Ananda is the word for bliss. Brahmananda Saraswati.
Mhm.
Saraswati. Saraswati.
Yes, and what you're saying right now is Sanskrit, right?
Well, it's someone's name.
Yes, but like you were mentioning like
Ananda in Sanskrit. Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, that is awesome. Um, well, thank you so much for coming on, Zoe. Do you have any final remarks for the viewers or just anyone that may see this? Do you have any tips you'd give to anyone?
I just think the bottom line is yoga is fantastic, and the
Mhm.
more people who do it, the better,
Yeah.
because it makes us feel good. So, whatever style you want to do, whatever way makes you feel comfortable to do it, the more people that do a little bit of yoga and feel better in their bodies and happier in their minds,
Mhm.
the better.
That is awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I recommend everyone check out the Light on Yoga. I that's the
And
one,
the Yoga
and
Sutras.
the Yoga Sutras. The only reason I'm recommending the Light on Yoga is because I've already started
Okay.
reading that one, and I've already become familiar with it, and it's really cool just to see the different body movements that a human could reach. I never would have envisioned certain movements, and they seem really cool. I hope to get to like at least 40% of that level one day.
Right?
Yeah.
Are you going to take advanced yoga next semester?
I'm not sure. I've contemplated. I know you've talked about having uh, a yoga certification
Mm-hmm.
to be able to teach yoga,
Mm-hmm.
and it's it's interested me. But I've been like taking a look at my coursework and course load,
Yeah.
and just my future plans, and I'm not sure how it fit in as of the current moment, but it is something that I think would be very cool to have, and just to experience and to be able to kind of bring to certain people. I feel like whenever you have a really cool skill and you're able to like share some of the knowledge that you've attained from years or hours of experience, it's really cool whenever you're teaching it to someone and showing someone how to embody it in a good way. So I've been thinking about it. Um, I feel like you're definitely like the professor that's made me question yoga a little bit more within myself as a everlasting. Um, I guess right now it is a hobby, but like a everlasting practice.
Neat.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's how I view it, is as a lifelong
yeah,
practice.
yeah.
That's cool that I've been able to impart that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and I've had like so many conversations with your students outside of class. I've bumped into them at running clubs. I've bumped into them in different scenarios, and everyone says like the same thing. It's Zoe who like I've met yoga instructors who talk about you who say, "Oh yes, I started getting my yoga instructors. Is it a certification? What is it?
Mhm.
So what is like the exact certification? It like goes into.
So I follow the protocol laid out by the Yoga Alliance, which
Mhm,
is a national yoga certification alliance. And so there's different levels. You can get the 200-hour level of certification. That's 200 hours of studies training you to be a yoga teacher, or the 500-hour. I think
mhm,
those are the two levels. And then you can do continuing education as well.
mhm,
And so within those certifications, you have to study not only the physical practices, but also like the Yoga Sutras, the
mhm,
philosophical component. You learn ethics,
mhm,
anatomy,
mhm,
teaching methodology,
mhm,
lots of different parts of being a yoga
mhm.
teacher. Um, yeah, I've had an interesting journey getting here.
Yeah.
The fact that you can take yoga for credit at UT is no small feat. We're
Yes.
the only UT campus out of the group of the UT colleges, universities that has this class, and one of only a handful in the country. Not every university has
Mhm.
a minor in yoga, so
Yes.
it's really special. And
A-
I'm really pleased that I got to be the kind of the founder of it.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember you said that there was like a lot of red tape you had to go through to even get the program started. At first, it was like it wasn't even a class, right? And then it became
No,
a
it
class.
wasn't even a class. I've gotten to write all of the curriculum and the syllabus for it. I've gotten to decide, like, what is this going to look like?
Mhm,
What is yoga?
mhm.
Really? I've gotten to decide that
That's awesome.
from a university standpoint. And it could have just been a physical pursuit, right? If
Yeah.
I had made it that, but I wanted it to be more of this like honoring of the ancient history, philosophy, and culture that led to this practice of yoga
Mhm.
beyond the physical, also including the mental, the emotional, the anatomical, the energetic, all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that is awesome. So, if someone wants to ask you a question, get connected with you, are you taking on any new clients or helping out
I
people?
do. I see just a handful of personal clients. Mostly I'm at the university and I can be found. I have public classes through the university. So I
Mhm,
teach undergrads, but I have 2 classes a week that are open to the public.
mhm,
So that's a great way for people to come and practice with me in person. I work with people one on one
mhm.
occasionally.
That is awesome. Wait, you said that one was open to the public?
Yeah, well, this semester it's Mondays and Wednesdays from 12 to 12:45. Have you come
Um,
to that one?
I think I
No?
accidentally stopped by once I left my.
Oh, because you left your thing and you saw us. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's just a small class. People can pop in whoever they want. So I'll
Mhm,
have mixed age ranges. I'll
mhm.
have faculty, staff, and open to the public. So all kinds of people come to that one. It's truly what I call an all levels class.
Okay, that is awesome.
Yeah.
And is there like some barrier? Like, do you have to pay or do
Yeah,
you have
you
to?
can sign up for it online. It's through the Fit Institute, which is a campus organization, but it's not for credit.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks, Zoe. I'm gonna also plug in your Instagram so people could follow
Thanks.
you. It's
Great.
We Love Zoe,
Yep.
and that's Zoe. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to keep taking your class to implement some of the principles that you've taught me through yoga and just give have a little bit more spatial awareness of myself and of
Hmm.
my body.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to kind of see that and talk about it. And I just want to thank you for coming again.
My pleasure.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you.